Okay, so we're in week 4, and the only thing we're going to talk about today are Google Sheets. So this will be a 2-part lesson. So the first part, if you want to follow along with the class notes, so I'll just do an outline of Google Sheets, right? And Google Sheets are Google's answer to Microsoft Excel. So I'll do some organizational stuff, right? And then do an overview on how to insert and edit things in Google Sheets. Okay, the second part here is there'll be a class exercise. You need to make sure you actually follow this exercise and do this exercise because we're going to use the Google Sheet that you develop in this exercise to do part 2 of the Google Sheets lesson. Okay, so make sure you actually create a Google Sheet with this exercise. And then part 2, here are the class notes. So I'll go over some formulas and some functions and some interesting things you can do using Google Sheets that will help you in the classroom. Okay, so that's part 2. And then lastly, you'll have your Google Challenge. So then here's an outline of your Google Sheets challenge. Okay, so first thing, let's actually create a sheet. So you need to go to your Drive, and however you organize it, so I have folders and folders, and I actually have a folder called Sheets. Right, so remember, when you start creating Google documents, whether they be Google Docs, Google Sheets, or Google Forms, wherever you create it is where it'll put it. So I want it to be in this folder, so I'll go to New, come down to the bottom, I'll have Google Sheets. It's just let me know again, right, that my folder actually has permissions, and by creating this, I'm going to give this Google Sheet the same permissions. So it's a nice little warning. Okay, this is a Google app, so it looks very similar to the Google Docs and Google Slides. Here's the green kind of table, that's the Google symbol for Google Sheets. If I click this, I'll go to the Google Sheet home, and this is where all my Google Sheets are stored. So if you haven't used Google Sheets before, you shouldn't have any of this, right? This is just where it housed all my Google Sheets. To the right here is the actual name, right? So I can name the document. Let's just call this class exercise. Now you can see I can star it for important, or I can put it in a folder. So I can move this document around. I have comments, so I can add comments just like we did in Google Docs and Google Slides. I can share just like every Google application. And I can do one person at a time. I can let them edit, comment, or view. I can go to advanced. I go to change, and now I can do the whole entire web, right? So now instead of one person at a time, I can do the whole world. Or I can put it as a link, so anyone with a link on my website can view it. So I can turn off kind of this world sharing and just do specific people. And no matter which one of these 3 I choose, I can let them edit, comment, or view. And then I always have these options to prevent editors from adding new people, and I can disable downloading, printing, and copying. Okay, so that's the same as all Google stuff. Okay, so let's talk about how Google Sheets are organized. You can see that Google Sheets is set up as kind of one big table. So a table of, and there's lots and lots. So if I keep dragging, you'll see I'd go from L to M, and I can just go on forever and ever. So Google Sheets is meant for a lot of data. So you can scroll to the right and get more columns. You can scroll down and get more rows. You can get all that stuff. Okay, and you'll notice the rows, they go by numbers. Here's row 1, here's row 2, here's row 3. The columns go by letters, A, B, C. If you wanted to identify a cell, so we call this one individual box a cell, and we always do the column first followed by the row. So this would be A1. Okay, so this is cell A1. This would be cell D4. Right, you can see it intersects row 4 with column D. And you can see, how do I enter data here? I just click on the cell and I just start typing. I can type text, I can type numbers, right? When I finish typing, I hit enter. You can see Google Sheets have aligned these differently, so it recognizes that this first one is text and it aligned it left. It recognized this one's numbers, so it aligned it right. If I do text and numbers, you can see it's going to put it to the left as well. So it recognizes what you type in. Okay, another way I can enter data is I can click the cell, and this blank bar above the columns, this is the formula bar. So I can actually click in here and then type whatever I want. Okay, so I can just click on a cell and type, or I can click on the formula bar and type as well. Okay, if you want to edit data, you have 2 choices. You can highlight the cell and then click in the formula bar, right, and change it, or I can double click the cell, and you can see I'm changing in the cell itself. It is text. Okay. So I can change it through the formula bar or double click. So to delete data in cells, you just highlight the cell and hit delete. If you want to delete more than one at a time, you click and hold and drag your mouse to highlight more than one, and then you hit delete and they're all gone. All right, so let's get rid of them all. I can also navigate through cells using my arrow keys. So here's left and right, up and down. You can size your columns and your rows. So let's put 1 in A1, then we'll do 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll see if I click on A, I don't actually have to highlight the whole column. I just have to go to the edge here and see how my cursor is changed into this black arrow. I click my mouse button, I hold it, and now I can drag my column to make it as big or as small as I want. And now I don't have to do one column at a time. I can click on B and drag so I highlight all the columns. I'll go over to the D column, get my cursor to be the black arrow. I click, I resize, and then we'll resize all three of those. So you don't have to do one at a time. You can also, if you want, automatically size things. So if I go and get my black arrow, if I double click, it'll size it to the largest piece of data in my column. Let's do Command Z to undo that. So you can see how it shrunk it down to the 1. Let's just write text. And now if I double click, you'll see it doesn't go to the size of the 1, it goes to the size of the text. So it'll shrink down the largest piece of data you have in your column. You can do it for multiple columns as well. So let's highlight B through D, and then I'll double click. You can see it sized it to the 12, the 123, and the 1234. Right, so that's how you can automatically size. You do the same thing with rows. Right? You can make them bigger or smaller. Looks like though if you double click, you can't automatically size the rows. So you'll just have to kind of put it back if you change it to where you want it to be. So let's actually try to make these all where they used to be. You can move cells. So if we go to we highlight the cell, we go down to the edge, you can see my cursor changes into the hand. Let's click and I grab the cell, and now I hold my mouse button and I move around with my mouse wherever I want the cell to be. I let go of my mouse button and then just move that cell. Okay, you can actually fill. So you'll see if let's do 1, 2, 3. If I click on the 3, and now if I go to this blue box to the right, I want my plus sign. So your cursor changes into different symbols for different actions. You'll notice when I did my sizing, I had the black arrow. When I did my grabbing, I had a little hand. When I do my filling, I have a plus sign. I grab and I hold my mouse button down, and then I drag to what I want to fill. So you'll see it filled all of those with a 3. Google Sheets is intuitive too. So if I highlight 1 through 3, Google Sheets is going to know that I want to go by 1. So if I fill this time, so click and hold your mouse button and drag all the way down, you'll see it knew that I wanted to go by 1s. Okay, so it's intuitive, but you have to give it enough information. You can also, drag and go column-wise. Okay, so you can see it just filled all that stuff. So you can see also if I fill with the columns, let's do 1, 2, 3. If I grab 1, 2, and 3 and fill to the right, it's intuitive as well. Or if I grab one number and fill to the right, it'll just put the 8s. Okay, so whatever I can do with rows, I can do with columns. Let's get rid of all this. So I'm going to highlight it all, hit delete. Okay, I can do formulas. So let's actually go back to A1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now let's do a formula. So to type formulas, you start with an equal sign. So now Google Sheets knows that this is going to be a formula. And then there are hundreds and hundreds of formulas we can write. For right now, I want this B1 cell to be whatever is in A1. So I'll click A1. Now you can see this is the formula. It says make this cell equal to A1. When I hit enter, you can see that's exactly it. A1 has a 1, and B1, even though I see a 1, it isn't a 1, it's A1. Right? So you see when I click, it lets me know what it's referencing. So now if I change A1, so let's change this to 10, B1 changes. Okay? And the nice thing about Google Sheets, when I fill, so click and drag, it's not going to fill the 10, it's going to fill the formula. So you can see here's A1, there's A2, A3, A4, A5. And that's what makes Google Sheets and Microsoft Excel so powerful. We can do a lot of calculations with these drag and fills very, very quickly, right? And with all the formulas. Okay, one last thing. If you look at your column, you'll notice as soon as I put my cursor next to the column, I get a drop-down menu. And here's where I can do a lot of editing. Right? So I can copy, I can paste, I can do all the stuff. I can paste special. I can insert columns. So if I insert one to the left, you can see it's actually inserted a column to the left. I can delete columns. Right? So if I want to delete this column, I can clear columns of all the data. I can hide columns. I can sort columns. So be careful, it says sort sheet. So you'll notice, let's do this, A, B, C, D, E. One thing to notice actually, if we go back, so let's say I have ABC and I want to fill, so Google Sheets should recognize that I want to go by letters, but it won't. Okay, so there are some limitations. I said the Google stuff is fantastic, it's free, and it's actually not too bad, it's just limited. Okay, so where Microsoft Excel would recognize that, Google Sheets won't, but I'm sure they're working on it. So, okay, so I have to type these in, DE. So if something doesn't work, it's unintuitive. That's just a limitation. And so now if I go back up and I sort, so A to Z is sort ascending, you'll see it change. I had A, B, C, D, E, and now it's changed my B. So it didn't just sort this column, it sorted my whole sheet. And we'll get to sorting. I'll go over sorting in a little bit more detail. That was just kind of a quick overview of this little drop-down menu. Okay, and all these features are in the toolbars and the menus. Okay, so speaking of that, I have the same menus I do in any kind of Google applications. So there are a couple new ones because it's Google Sheets, but I have File, so I can share, which is the same as this blue share button. Right? I can open, I can do new stuff, I can organize, I can import. I can download this actually as an Excel file or a PDF. I have edit, so I can undo, copy, paste, I can do all that stuff, delete rows and columns. Okay, I can view. We'll go over all this stuff in detail a little bit. So I have a new menu option called freeze. I can actually freeze frames. Here's my toolbar. I can turn my toolbar on and off. Okay, I can insert rows and columns, so that's different, right? Because these are Google Sheets now. Comments are the same. I can do functions, which is different. I can do charts, which is a little different. That's specific to Google Sheets. I can format. I can actually change the cells. I can format the cells into all this stuff, make it a number, scientific notation, currency, financial, dates and times. Okay, and then all my other normal formatting. Here's where I can clear my formats. Here's a new menu option altogether because Google Sheets is all about data. So here I can sort, I can protect things, I can filter. And then tools, I can actually create a Google form. So Google Forms and Google Sheets go together hand in hand. And I can do my spelling option. I can do my dictionary like we did before. Here's where I can get my add-ons. And here's where we can get help. Okay, so let's talk about some specifics here. Let's go to the edit. So let's talk about pasting. So you'll notice if I just copy and paste, so if I hit Command C, you'll see, as soon as I click out, you'll see I have a dotted border around this. That lets me know I've actually copied it. And if I hit Command V, I paste. Okay, and you can see my cell D3 is the same as A2. They both have the number 2 in it. Let's get our formula back. Let's do equals A1. So now this B1 is actually a formula. So if I copy this one and paste it, we think it should be a 2, but it's not. All right, now why is that? Because it's copied the formula. This is A1. This indicates that whatever's in B1 is exactly the same as what's in A1. And you'll see if I go to my paste, it did the same thing. It didn't go to A1, it went to the one right next to it. Right? So now whatever is in D4 is the same as C4. So let's say I don't want to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. If I had stuff in C4, you can see it puts it right in D4. But let's say I don't want the formula, I want the value. So I hit Command C, so I copy it. And this time though, I go to Edit and Paste Special. And I only want to paste the value. So I paste the value, and now you can see it is a 2. It's not a formula anymore. Okay, so that's how I can paste the values in cells and not the actual formula. If we had edits, so let's say I have align center, I'll bold this, and I'll make it red. So what I can do is hit Command C, copy. I'll highlight anything I want. It doesn't have to be because it's a 2. I'll do edit, paste special, and now I want the formats only. You can see it's going to change it to the exact format. It wouldn't have changed the number. Right? So if I do the same thing here, I'll do edit, paste special, formats only. You can see it didn't change it to a 2, it just applied the formats. And one other thing you can do is transpose. So I'll highlight a whole section, I'll hit Command C, I'll select down, I'll paste special, and this time I'll transpose. You can see now it takes my vertical and makes it horizontal. You see paste special, I have other things. I can do everything except for borders, I can do formulas only, data validation, and conditional formatting. Okay, find and replace works nicely. So let's say I want to change, for some reason I want to change all these 3s to 2s. So I go to edit, I want to do find and replace. What do I want to find? I want to find the 3s, and I want to replace them with 2s. So Google Sheets is different than Excel here. Let's go over the options here. So we can search in all sheets, and right now we only have one sheet open. We can search just this sheet if we had multiple sheets, or a specific range. So I'm going to do the range, and you can see that's the range I have highlighted. So how we read this is, it's saying go to Sheet 1 tab, right? And that's this Sheet 1 tab, and look in the range from A1 to A5. You can see it's A1 all the way to A5. So that's how Google Sheets actually recognizes a whole set of data. It puts a colon in between them. If I wanted to do A1 all the way to B5, what I can do is click this select range, I click and hold and I drag, and you can see now it's A1 to B5. So it starts at A1 and it's selected everything until B5. And so we can match case, we can match entire cell contents. We can also search it in formulas. If we had formulas, we'd actually want to search inside the formula. So that's something that's different from Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Excel does that automatically, but we'd have to actually click this if we're going to search inside formulas. And you can see it'll show me the formulas. Right? This is the only one with a formula. And then I can either replace piecewise or I can replace them all. And then hit done. You can see it changed my 3 to a 2, and then my 13, it's now a 12. Okay, so since it came up, let's talk about one thing, the tabs. Right now I only have one tab. I have one sheet open. If I were to make a new sheet, I hit that plus sign. Now you can see I have two sheets. My data, where did it all go? It didn't go anywhere. It's in sheet 1. So I can actually have multiple sheets open at a time. And it's just multiple workspaces. Okay, let's talk about viewing. So let's do this. Let's highlight everything. Let's hit delete. And then let's go to format. And let's clear all formats. All right, so let's talk about viewing. So let's do this. Let's do name. Let's put Joe, Sue, Sam, and Jenny. And let's say we have some kind of a test score. Test 1, test 2. And let's put some scores here. So let's do 90, 80, 80, 70. 65, 65, 65, and then 85. Okay. I'm going to align these. I like center align for some weird reason. Let's actually highlight, I'll bold the top. So I know that those are the headers. Okay, so here I have some nice data. I have some test scores for all these people. If I had a lot of scores, so let's say this was actually a class and I had multiple. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this so you can see. Let's actually go to Q. So let's say I had all these test scores. Okay. And look what happened. It actually was intuitive. 1, 2, it went 3, 4, 5, 6. And then since it was 95 to 65, it thought I was subtracting 25 each time. So it did that. So it was intuitive, not what I wanted, right? But it tried to figure out what I wanted. So just keep that in mind. So let's say I want to see what's in column N. I can use the scroll bar down at the bottom and click and drag. Or I can take my 2 fingers on the trackpad and just scroll to the right. Okay, so you can see in column O, I have these scores, but I can't see the names anymore. So let's go all the way back to the beginning. And what I can do is I'll highlight column A, I'll view, and here's where I'll freeze. So I want to freeze the first column. And you'll see what happens is I got a nice bold line that lets me know that this sheet now there's a column that's been frozen. And now when I scroll to the right, what happens? My names, my frozen columns stay the same. So now I can actually see, here's O, Joe got a negative 235, Sue got a negative 115. Okay, so freezing literally just freezes the columns. You can also freeze rows. Let's go back to view, freeze the first row. And now you'll see if I scroll up and down or left and right, my names and tests all stay the same. To get rid of them, go to View, go to Freeze, and do No Rows. View, Freeze, No Columns. Okay, so freezing is nice when you have a lot of data. You want to identify specific cells with people. So now I'm going to highlight all this stuff. So I click the row, go to the right, and I'm just going to hit Delete. Okay, and then I'll scroll back to the left. Yeah, another thing in the view are the grid lines. I don't know why you'd ever want to turn them off, but you might want to. Maybe it looks better to you, but then it's hard to kind of see where the cells are. But if you wanted to turn off the grid lines, you can. If you want to turn off the formula bar, you can. If you don't have a formula bar, just go to View and you can get a formula bar. Okay, so we talked about inserting. Let's go to Insert now. I can insert, if I go to any row or column, I can actually insert a row above or below. So you see it put a row above. I can go here and insert a row below. I can insert columns, right, to the left and to the right. So that's how I can insert, specific columns and rows. I can do a whole other sheet. So if I do a new sheet, you can see now I have sheet 3. So I can either do the plus sign, or I can do insert new sheet. I can insert comments, I can insert notes, I can insert functions, and we'll talk about that more in part 2. Here I can do a chart. So let's do our chart. So I'm on sheet 3 right now. I want to go back to sheet 1. That's where my data is. I want to get rid of all the stuff I inserted. So I want to delete this column. I have multiple ways I can do this. I can click the arrow button and I can delete the column. So now when I hit the row, I want to delete the row. You'll notice there is no arrow button, there's no drop down button. So I'm going to have to go to Edit, Delete Row, and then Edit, Delete Row 4. Right, I get my stuff back. So let's insert a function. So let's say I wanted to find the average here. I think we'll talk a little bit more about this. All I have to do is hit equals. I can type in average, and I click and I highlight. I click and hold my mouse button. I drag. So this is from B2 all the way to B5. I close my parenthesis, then I hit enter. So my average is an 80. I could have inserted that function as well. So let's hit delete. Let's insert function, average. You can see it puts exactly what I typed in before, an average. So I have to click inside the parentheses, and then I drag, and then hit enter. Okay, so that's how I can insert functions, or I can type them. All right, let's do a chart. So let's get rid of my average. Let's highlight. Let's say I want to make a chart of the first test score. So I can go to insert, and I can do chart, or there's a nice toolbar button. I can do insert chart. And you can see it's going to sheet 1, which is sheet 1, and A1 to B5, so I have A1 to B5. If I wanted to change my actual data, I click the data range box here. Let's move this over, and then I can click and do them all. So you can see now it's A1 to C5. Okay, so I hit OK. Now you can see I have Joe is test 1, and then red is test 2. And I have these options. I can do a bar chart, which is I have here. I can do a bar chart, though, where they're on top of each other. I can do a line chart. I can do a pie graph, or I can do a horizontal bar chart. Okay, so now these are just recommendations. I can go to chart types and get more options. So here's a line. Here's a line with curved edges. A bar chart with a trend line. I can do areas. I can do all that stuff. Okay, and then here is actually, on the chart types, I have options. So I can aggregate column A. Okay, I can switch rows and columns. Okay, so you can see that the horizontal are the names. So Joe, Sue, Sam, Jenny. And then the legend, the actual graphs themselves, are going to be the test 1 and the test 2. If I switch them, my test 1 and test 2 are now the horizontal, and then the actual graphs themselves are by the name. So you can see it's switched the rows and the columns. If I have a headers, so I want to use row 1 as headers, I click yes. If they're not headers, I unclick this. You can see now I have a whole nother column because it thinks this is a data point. And then column A, you can use those as the labels. So if you're unsure what something does, just click it. Okay. You can do customize. So here you can edit your text. You can change it bold, italicized, you can change the color. So this is test 1 and test 2. Let's change that to orange. And then legend, let's make that at the bottom. So you can see it's down at the bottom there. Actually, I don't like that. Let's put it back to the right. I can change that too. I can bold, italicize. Let's make these, how about purple? I can change the font, and I can change the background of my actual chart. Let's make it some weird color. Right. You can smooth the features. You can see it makes the sharp line smooth, or you can reverse the order, which is nice. Again, if you're not sure what something does, click it and see. And when you hit insert, so here it's going to insert this chart. If you want to edit anything on the chart, you have to select it. So select the chart, and you can see I can click in here and I can edit things. So anything I click on, you'll notice I can do this actually because I have this edit button clicked. If I have the view button, I'm not going to be able to do any of that. If you have the preview button clicked, you're not going to be able to actually change anything. If you have the edit button clicked, then you can edit things. Okay. If you wanted to resize your chart, you can just click any one of the boxes on the corners of the size, hold your mouse button, just like we actually resize images. You have a nice little arrow button up here. This will be a drop-down menu. You can do advanced edits, which brings you right back to where you were in the beginning when you created your chart. You can delete the chart completely, you can save the image, you can publish the chart, you can copy the chart, or you can actually move the chart to its own sheet. So if you like the chart on this sheet, so I can grab and move the chart wherever I want. So if you like it on this sheet, that's great. If you want to move it to its own sheet, then what it'll do is put it as a tab. So you can see here's sheet 1, all my data, and here's my chart. Okay, the best thing about this, and let's watch, so Joe here has a 65 and a 90. If I go to Joe and change this to 95, it automatically changes the chart. Okay, so once you create a chart based on data, that's another great thing about Google Sheets and Microsoft Excel. Change the data, it changes all the links in the charts. And then you can see once I have my own sheet, I have menu bars here. I can, again, do the preview mode or the edit mode, copy, advance, publish, I have all that good stuff. Okay, so that's how we can insert charts. Okay, let's go to formatting. So we can format cells here. So let's type in, let's say 1250. Okay, this is bold, I want to unbold it. So I can format cells based on my actual formatting tools. So I can change the font style, the font size, all this bold, I can change the color, I can do all that stuff. Right? So now what I'm talking about with formatting is not that type of formatting. I want to format the actual cell itself. I can go to format, and you can see here are my options. I can do text, numbers, percent, scientific, all that good stuff. So I'll let Google Sheets know it needs to convert it to a specific style. So let's do currency. So I can do format, number, and click currency. I can go and just click the currency button right here, or I can click this 1, 2, 3, and you'll see I get the exact same formats. So let's click the button, highlight my cell, and then you can see it changes it to 1250. And you can see if I do it ahead of time, so I want to change this cell to currency, then whatever I type in will automatically change it to currency when I hit enter. Same thing with percents. So let's say I want these all always to be percents. So now my cells are formatted. So now anything I type in as a decimal, when I hit enter, will be a percent. Okay, then you can see for some reason it didn't actually change it to percent. So if I click it now, it'll change it to percent. So I'm not sure why in currency it worked and then percents it didn't. Like I said, Google is fantastic. It's free, but there are some limitations and some bugs. All right, so this should have automatically changed it to percent. So if I type in 0.76, you'll see it's not a percent, so I'll format it to percent. The buttons to the right, which are useful, are you can increase and decrease decimal size. All right, so here I have a 95. Let's say I don't care about the decimals. I click decrease twice, and then all the decimals are gone. Let's say I was wrong and I want 1 decimal, so that I can increase or decrease how many decimals it shows me. Okay, another format for cells, it's called text wrapping. So what you can do is, let's put this is text. Okay, I'm going to size it to go a little below. Change that to the left. So you can see this is text actually overhangs the column E. Right, so I have choices here. Now if I go to the right, so if I go past the horizontal line and the vertical line, I get to text wrapping. I have 3 choices. I can just overflow, which is where I'm at right now, which is overflows column E. I can wrap it, so if I click that, you can see it puts it all in column E, but it just wraps the text. Or I could clip it. So you can see it has this is t, so it just cut it off at the border. It didn't get rid of it though, so if I extend this, you'll see I still have this as text. It just won't show me the entire text. Okay, so that's how you can wrap text. So let's actually wrap. So if I did something like this, let's say I wrapped it, and now these are at the bottom. I might, for aesthetic purposes, vertical align these to the middle. Okay, the other thing you can do is you can merge cells. So if I want to highlight more than one cell, I highlight them both, and then I hit this merge. You can see now it's not 2 separate cells, it's 1 big cell. And then I have options here. I can merge horizontally, vertically, or I can unmerge. I can actually highlight and move down and just hit merge. So I don't really need to do this horizontal and vertical, it's just whatever I highlight. Okay. If I want to get rid of it, then I just click unmerge, and I click unmerge. And you can see now I have all my cells back. Be careful, if you merge 2 cells with data in them, it's going to give you an error message that says, hey look, you're going to get rid of data. So when I do that, you can see that's exactly what happened. It overwrote the 2 cells and just put test 1 and deleted the test 2. Okay, so just be careful. And then if I hit unmerge, you'll see my test 2 doesn't come back. All right, so just be careful. But if I do Command Z twice, then I'll undo all my stuff. That's how we can merge cells. Okay, let's go to sorting. So let's say I want to do alphabetical here. So we noticed that we had a drop-down menu which was sort. We can do sort sheet, which is the entire sheet. I can also do that through my data. I can sort the sheet by the column A to Z. You'll see if I do that, it sorts everything. It takes my headers, it takes all the junk to the right, it did everything. It sorted the entire sheet, which is what it was supposed to do. So hit Command Z. Let's say I just want to sort a specific range. Then I'll go to Data. Instead of sort sheet, I'm going to sort range. So now it'll sort this whole range, and it'll do it by column A. So I'll sort. Now you can see it only sorted the range I had highlighted, and it did it by alphabetical, which was in column A. Okay, so that's how you can sort a range, not an entire sheet. Okay, I'm going to get rid of all this stuff. So I'm going to highlight it, hit delete. You can see it automatically resized my cells. Okay, another nice thing is the filter. Okay, so I can go to Data, and I can go to Filter, or Filter is right here as a toolbar button. I'll highlight the headers I want to filter, and I just hit the Filter button. Let's see what happens. I get arrows, so these are drop-down menus. So I can do stuff now. I can sort this whole column by A. And be careful, this is the sheet. So if I sort that, let's go descending. You can see it sorted everything. Okay, so be careful. This isn't just by one column. It's the entire set of data. So I can sort. I can filter by conditions, or here's the key. So this is why I can do some cool filter stuff. So let's say I only want to see who has an 80%. Right now I have 70% and 95 selected, so I'll deselect them. When I hit OK, you can see it gets rid of everybody that doesn't have an 80%. So you can imagine, we only have 4 sets of data points here, but imagine if we had hundreds, right? So let's put all your classes together. It's a very easy way to sort through and just pick out things you're interested in. Okay, so I want you to notice it changed my arrow to now this green sort icon. So it's not a blue arrow anymore, it's a green sort. And I can also sort multiple times. So let's say I only want to see people named Sue. I only want to know people named Sue who got an 80. Okay, so now both these have filters applied. If you want to get rid of it, you just select all, and it's pretty much like turning off the filter. You can see I'm back to my blue arrow. I'll select all, and I get all my data back. To turn off your filter, you just click the button, and it will turn it off. Okay, one thing you need to be careful of, when you misspell things, it's not going to let you know with a red squiggly line that you misspelled something. Let's say people. All right, so if I type people, you'll notice that I misspelled it, but it doesn't let me know with a nice red squiggly like Google Docs does. So I'd always recommend when you do something, do tools, spelling, and then it'll find it and say, hey, look, you messed this up, so change it, and then search all sheets, and then I'm good. Okay, so just make a note, it does not let you know when you misspelled things. Okay, let's go to some more formatting. So let's put some borders here. I can highlight anything I want, and then I go to the border button, so borders. Now I have these options, right? I can do a total border, so encase them all. I can do, just a cross section, so no outside. If I want to get rid of borders, I hit the clear. Right? I can do, let's say I just want to box the whole thing. Right? I can do box, and let's say I wanted these middle lines now, so I'll do the middle lines. Right? And I can change, right? So I can change the border colors. And I can change the style from solid to dashed to small dashed. All right. Be careful when you do change. So let's change this to, how about red and dashed. Okay, you'll notice it didn't change. I'm going to have to go back and reapply my actual borders. And now it did change. Okay, so that's one thing is once you change the border color and the style, you have to go back and reapply your border. And now the caveat to that is, now when I apply borders anywhere, they're going to be red dashed. Okay, so if you don't want them to be red dashed, you're going to have to go through and change your borders again. So let's change it back to black and solid. You'll notice nothing changed. So now though, when I do my borders, they're all black and solid. Okay, so those are borders. You can shade, obviously, right? So let's say I want all my names in light blue. I want test 1 in red. Test 2. Let's actually change the border, get rid of the dotted. And I want to make it green. Okay, so that's how I can apply different shades to identify different pieces of data. The last thing we'll talk about are these tabs. Okay? There's a few things you can do on the tab. You'll notice it has a name. I didn't name it sheet 1, but I can double click it and then I can change the name. So let's change it to tab 1, and I just click out of it, and it changed the name. And I can do that to any one of these. All right, so I double click. Maybe I name this one Tess. All right, so that's how I can rename them. Also notice there's a little arrow key. This means there's going to be a drop-down menu. I can delete the tab itself. So let's go to sheet 2. There is no data. So let's just delete it. It asks if you want to delete it. Hit yes. And then you'll see there is no more sheet 2. Okay, let's go back to tab 1 now, which is really my sheet 1. I can duplicate it. Hit duplicate. You can see now it has a copy of tab 1, which is nice. Go back to tab 1. I can copy it. I can actually rename it. So if you didn't like the double click, you can rename it. I can change the color. So I can actually make the tab. Let's make this one blue. Let's make this one, let's delete our duplicate. And let's make Tess, change the color. We can make it, how about red? So you see it puts a little underline for the color. This is different than Excel. Excel will actually color the whole tab. Okay, I can protect the whole sheet, which just means that people won't be able to edit whatever's on the sheet. I can hide the sheet. I can move the sheet to the right. I can also just click and hold the tab and then move it to the right or left. Okay, so I don't have to do the arrow key. I can move it. All right, and that's an overview of Google Sheets.